Welcome, welcome. This is the Patriot Trading News Hour, and what you're going to get today is the Colorado Front Range News Hour. I am your guest host, Jason. I will be joined shortly by my co-host, Bryan, as the show goes. The Patriot Trading Group is your gold and silver specialist for 25 years. The number to call to buy gold and silver is 800-951-0592. That number again is 800-951-0592. Joe needed to have a little bit of personal time and just have to figure out if we want to do a replay show or have a guest host. Joe doesn't have us on too often. Our shows are a little different. If you're in Colorado or Arizona, you listen to both shows. They're not the same type of show, but we're going to bring you a whole lot of Colorado Front Range News Hour today. So if you don't know me, if you're an Arizona listener only and you haven't clicked on the internet, if you haven't gone to 1360khnc.com and clicked in and listened to some of our shows, listen to the Colorado Front Range News Hour 3 o'clock here in Colorado. I am Jason. I am a part owner of the Patriot Trading Group. My partner Bryan, who's not quite on the air yet, him and I both bought into the Patriot Trading Group in 2018. And we've been a big part of what goes on with Patriot Trading Group, and we run the Colorado office, and we have a local office here in the radio station where you can pick up your gold and silver. This is an ability Colorado didn't have until Joe reached out on Groundhog's Day in 2018 and asked for someone to buy into the company and be a part of this thing and have this physical office, and it's been great. The Colorado business has been picking up a lot since Bryan and I have been here. And it's exciting to be on Joe's show anytime we can do Joe's show. It's a good thing. So we're gonna have a good show today. I'm gonna start with waking up and my wife's there and she's a little more news savvy. She understands what's going on more. I don't like to turn on the local or the national news very much. Here I'm supposed to be doing a news show and I don't pay attention to the news very much. But then I hear, oh, Prince Philip died. Prince Philip died. Who cares? I mean, really, when one of these globalists fall off the map, we're supposed to shed a tear and be upset about this guy. You know, one of these guys that are a part of the system that enslaves us financially. And besides the royal family, they got bought up and taken over long ago. Just a little tidbit of history. When the Battle of Waterloo was being fought against Napoleon, the Rothschilds bankers, the original central bankers, the ones that ended up owning the Bank of England and helping create the Federal Reserve, the Rothschilds had the fastest horses in the world. And when the Battle of Waterloo was getting ready to be fought, they had their horses at the battle. And how convenient was it? The Rothschilds were walking around England there at the time of the battle, and when the battle was over, their horses rode as fast as they could to get the news to the Rothschilds first. And what happened? Well, of course, England won the battle. Napoleon lost. But that's not what the Rothschilds showed. The Rothschilds walked around, their heads hung down, and oh my gosh, England won the war, or won the battle, and Napoleon's coming straight for us now. And of course, it was opposite. And what happened was all these businesses, all of these business interest bankers, they were selling all their stocks, selling all their assets. Watch out. The end is here. Here comes Napoleon. He's going to stomp us into the ground. And who bought up all those cheap assets? Who bought all of England, essentially, was the Rothschilds. And the Bank of England bought the monarchy. So everything you know about England and their tyrannical practices, it really stems from the bankers. The Rothschilds bought up England. They owned the Bank of England, and essentially there's where we're at. So there you go. There's a little piece of history on a Friday, and this is what Bryan and I do on our show. We talk a lot about economic history. Where do these bankers come from? What do they do? Joe hits the numbers, and Bryan and I basically come from the point of view that all the numbers are fake and phony. All the news that's on TV is fake and phony. It's all wrong. It's all tainted and twisted from one point of view or another. So you might say, well, if Joe's giving us numbers and they're fake and phony, then why should we listen to Joe? And that's not what I'm saying. Joe has to take the numbers that are reported, and he gives you a bird's eye view of exactly what that means to you and what it means to gold and silver. Joe will even admit that a lot of the numbers, he can't vouch for those numbers being exactly right, but that's the numbers that they're feeding us. So Joe takes that situation, those numbers, and he gives you some good advice, and he's been doing this for years, and he's been right. He's been right. Eric before him, the same thing. He sees what's going on in the world of economics and the world of politics, what's going on in the with the Federal Reserve Bank and the relationship with our government, and we give you good, solid buying advice. I remember before I came on to the Patriot Trading Group, about a year ahead of maybe 2 years, Joe came on the air. He's like, "Look, I don't know why, but rhodium is really, really cheap, and we're going to sell some." And he was selling for about $800 an ounce. And even though at the time I was selling gold on my own, so I didn't, I had a cheaper way of buying it than the average person. So I had my own distributor, but I was selling it at the back of my car and using Craigslist and other ways of advertising the way I was selling it. But I was listening to Joe every day, and I bought rhodium at $800 an ounce. Now rhodium is sitting around $23,000 an ounce. If you want to ask yourself, or you want to tell people why they should listen to Joe Jaquint and the Patriot Trading News Hour, there's a good example of why. We are your auto mechanics for gold and silver. You call the number 800-951-0592, and we will give you that auto mechanic. We'll be your local auto mechanic for gold and silver. You need to buy, you need to sell, you have questions, we're going to handle that for you. So we're going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin and gold and silver on the other side of this break. Stay tuned.
Welcome back, Patriot Radio News Hour. Good Friday morning to you, 9th of April, 2021. Stand-in coach here, the caveman duo. That's how I identify. Proud of it. Bryan here joining Jason here in the northern Colorado Front Range. What are we going to talk about today, Jason?
I got Robert Kiyosaki. He's going to talk a little bit. This guy buys Bitcoin. And we're going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin. I'm going to let Robert Kiyosaki, he's being interviewed, and I'm going to play this clip. It's about 6 minutes, and we're going to come in and talk about Robert Kiyosaki. If you were sitting here talking to us, I think you would agree with everything we're going to say after we play this clip. But Bitcoin, Bryan, as you know, is actually a very good investment. I think the way it's devised, the encryption, the safety of it, money that is outside the system. But I'm going to play this clip. And then we're going to talk about the dangers of Bitcoin. Gold and silver is a much better place to place your money. And I'll say this right now: I believe Bitcoin could be $150,000 at the end of this year, maybe $300,000. And if Joe were listening, we don't really want to talk about that too much. But I still am very comfortable on the fact that you should buy gold and silver instead. And gold and silver will not have gains that steep this year. And so if you're one of those fast hustle kind of guys that want to try to make a quick buck, you can gamble with Bitcoin. And right now it's not much of a gamble. But I'm not going to cover it with the Arizona audience just yet as to what I think is going to happen to Bitcoin. We're going to listen to Robert Kiyosaki, Bryan, but we know there are different ways of money. Money is an idea, right? Money can be a good idea, but money can also be a corrupt idea against the citizens, right?
Well, one of my caveman ways is being a proud owner of gold and silver myself, a holder of it. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a make-sure you don't go poor quick scheme. If you want to call it a scheme, it's not a scheme, but it's a strategy to not be poor. It's to preserve my savings that I work my butt off for.
That's correct, and it is the best form of money to be saving. I mean, a lot of people like to throw the term investment with gold and silver. I like to call it savings. It's savings. It's absolute savings. It's wealth insurance, as Joe and Eric have said for years. It's the best place to put your money when, let's just say you're looking for that next big investment. That maybe you want to buy a business. Maybe you want to, your cousin George has a big new invention that's going to make millions of dollars. Those are investments. That's where you're supposed to put your money to make your fortune. But as far as until that opportunity pops up, are you going to leave it as digital money in your bank account? Are you going to have it in a shoebox as inflation steals your money? Absolutely not. You call 800-951-0592 and get gold and silver. there are good forms of money, Brian. You know, the idea of money is a good one if it's to work for the citizens. John F. Kennedy and Abraham Lincoln were printing paper money that was different than the paper money we spend. They were United States notes. They were greenbacks, interest-free money, free to the people. And what happened to those presidents there, Brian?
Well, it makes me wonder what potentially could happen to the Bitcoin. I know it's a distributed system. There's encryption and security, but I think people underestimate the stake in controlling the global wealth that the central bankers do. I think it's highly underestimated what they'll do to rank with edict or laws unconstitutional, or let's just say John Perkins style economic hitman. Who knows?
Correct. So I'm going to jump into this clip real quick. We'll talk a little bit about tally sticks, another form of money that was used, hard times tokens. There are different types of money outside the system that's been created before that was good for the people. Bitcoin is one of those, but I'm going to suggest you not buy it. But let's listen to Robert Kiyosaki.
Bitcoin has been on a tear this year, rallying more than 100.
This interview is a few months old, so if it sounds like it's old information, it doesn't matter. The information is still good.
150% and beating other assets, including the Dow Jones Industrial Average and gold. JP Morgan analyst came out saying that the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust has seen inflows of almost $2 billion since October, compared with outflows of $7 billion for ETFs backed by gold. So is gold dying at the hands of Bitcoin? That's what we will be discussing today. And what a great guest to talk about this with. Robert Kiyosaki, best-selling author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and many other books. Robert, always good to have you on. Welcome back.
Oh, no, thank you. And great subject to talk about. For full disclosure, I own Bitcoin, I own gold, and I own silver.
And that's why I thought you'd be perfect, Robert, because I know you're in all these. And you're not favoring one over the other right now. But the question is gold dead?
No. People miss the macro. I think our national debt is over $50 trillion. And don't quote me on it. So you think Bitcoin is going to cover that? You think silver is going to cover it? You think gold is going to cover that? So as gold goes down, to me, it's a buying opportunity. The same as when Bitcoin crashed, it was a buying opportunity. And so all you guys who are gold guys, just look at the biggest problem of all. This COVID is not going away. And the economy is crashing. And they haven't started to print money yet. Look at Janet Yellen. You know, I don't know what that means. If she becomes Treasury Secretary, she was Fed Chairman. And if Biden persists, she becomes Secretary of Treasury. That's the marrying of the Fed and the Treasury. That's MMT. That's magical or Marxist monetary theory. They're going to print like crazy. So I think our deficit is really around 50 trillion, off balance sheet liabilities and all this. Plus our pensions are going to collapse. So it's really bad news, but it's good news for gold.
I think this was the scary figure, at least from the JP Morgan analysis, is that Bitcoin only accounts for 0.18% of family office assets compared with 3.3% for gold ETFs. So they're saying tilting the needle from gold to Bitcoin would represent the transfer of billions in cash. Is that a reality that could happen?
Look, anything's possible today. Who knows what can happen today? But the point here is this, that you have to look at what the problem is. And the problem is the American economy is crushed. Our pensions are crushed. That's why I wrote the book, Who Stole My Pension? Because the authors, Ted Siddell and myself, Ted's the #1 whistleblower on pensions in America. And both his father and my father lost their pensions. And Danielle, that's coming. So the pension problem, which was now, it's all been stuffed with the CMBS's collateralized mortgage-backed securities, the same as the derivatives of, 2008. It hasn't gotten any better. It's gotten worse since 2008. So as gold goes down, in my opinion, that's good. But the sleeper of all, as you know, I'm on Lear Capital, but Lear doesn't pay me. I am sincere when I say I buy silver, because the biggest trend coming now, let's say America does go socialist or Marxist, which it is this Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is they're going to take the money away from oil and they're going to give it to capitalists who understand green energy. They're going to start giving their money to solar and all that. So solar is jumping and all this. So anything the communist socialists of America are backing is good for us. But that makes it for silver, because silver is used in, medicine and all that. So silver is still 50% off its all-time highs. So I see it as a fabulous time for silver, gold, and Bitcoin. So we were laughing about my friend Peter Schiff goes a little nuts, but anyway, because I don't know why he trashes Bitcoin. You know what I mean? When it dropped that far, I had to buy it. It's the same as gold and silver. It's called buy low, sell high.
It's interesting, right? And you're one of the few, Robert, I want to say, experts out there that has embraced both, because most people are really taking a side here. Like this gold Bitcoin debate is on fire and people are so passionate about one side over the other. But I say, why not embrace both?
Well, why not all three? I'm trying to say, silver, you look, it hasn't really fluctuated that much. It's come off of, let's say, $50, and it's about 25. And even when gold went down, silver stayed solid. That's because the socialists, the commies, I'm a Marine, former Marine, so I think I don't like communists, but they're in America today. But they're going to start driving the price of silver. So that's, and like I said, I'm a Lear Capital. I own silver. I believe in silver. They don't pay me for it. But for the average person, they can afford $25. They can't afford Bitcoin.
What happens if the Fed stops purchases in a year from now, Robert? Won't many assets, including Bitcoin, gold, be hurt by that?
No, I don't think so. I think it's because they're gold, silver, Bitcoin are outside the central bank, the communist bank system. That's why Yellen being Fed and then Treasury is a start of centralized government in America. That's how I see it. And, I fought in Vietnam twice. I didn't fight for this. This is communism, centralized planning. So that's why you look at the problem in America is probably a $50 trillion problem. So, how are they going to fix it, Danielle? I don't know. So it could go up, it could go down, and gold, silver, Bitcoin each has strengths and weaknesses, good and bad about it. So I don't get into the argument.
Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, as always.
All right, there you go. And so here's what I'll say about Bitcoin or gold if you're going to make a buying decision. And this is the facts about it. This is what's going to happen. Not maybe, and I won't. I can guess the timing of it. But if you buy Bitcoin at 50,000 and it goes to 300,000, and you're looking at a 6 times profit, that's extremely good. And that could be by the end of next year. The problem, which you don't have when you buy gold and silver from Patriot Trading Group, gold and silver in your hand that you have with Bitcoin, is it's not in your hand. Money is an idea. Ideas can be used as a good way for people, or it can be used against people. I think Bitcoin is being used for the people right now, but it could very rapidly change. And when you go to convert Bitcoin into dollars, either into your bank account or in other ways, if there is a crash on Bitcoin, it could take, I've heard, if Bitcoin gets to 300,000, it's big. It's getting big, and try to get out of it. And when it starts to crash, the system could, from what I understand, it could take a month to get your money out. And if it's crashing, it doesn't take very many days for it to drop almost to zero. And I think Bitcoin will end up at zero, and here's why. Bitcoin, gold, and silver, this is money outside the central banking system, just like Robert Kiyosaki said. So if I had him here, the question I'd ask him is, when the government makes Bitcoin illegal, how much of it are you going to have in your hands? And he'll tell you zero. And the reason why is because if they make it illegal like they did gold in 1933, there's no value there. And this economic global monetary reset that's getting ready to happen could freeze up gold, or excuse me, Bitcoin in a way that nobody's going to be able to get their money out of it in time. Only the biggest players will be able to get out just in time. They'll know when it's going to happen. Ain't going to happen to gold and silver. But gold and silver is going to keep going up during this whole process. And when Bitcoin crashes because we go to Fed coin, some digital currency, worldwide currency, gold will just keep on going up. It's going to kind of keep, I think what you got here is the tortoise and the hare. Gold is the tortoise. Bitcoin is the hare. And the hare's going to take off racing and get far ahead, but the government's going to outlaw rabbits. And gold, if it's physically in your hands, it's going to be very easy to get your money out of gold. You take it right over to Arizona, or you take it right into our Colorado office, and we will give you your money that if you need to get out of it to pay for whatever you need to pay for, or if you want to keep buying more, we'll be able to sell more to you. Gold and silver does not have that problem, and my feeling is if you buy Bitcoin and you make a little money off it, by the time you decide to get out of it, how much are you going to get? Is the amount of money you're going to make on it the same as what gold's going to end up at the same time? Why would you put your money in a risky situation where the whole Bitcoin could freeze up in a sell-off, where you could just physically be holding your gold in your hand?
Welcome back. Second half of the Patriot Radio News Hour on a Colorado Front Range Fake News Friday. Your stand-in host today, Jason, and this is Bryan up here on the Northern Colorado Front Range. Good analogy and audio of that Kiyosaki that you played. Just reminding me, Jason, I'm sitting here in a, let's just say a 10, 15-year-old Buick following a nice new Corvette, nice shiny new Corvette, the whole hare and the turtle. I'm in the turtle. He or she was in that nice, I got to admit, it looked really nice. Nice new Corvette. And maybe a Bitcoin holder. And this is not to knock any of you Bitcoin holders out there, but when the race is complete, and I couldn't help but also think about the Green New Deal that Robert Kiyosaki mentioned. Yes, they're going to eventually constrain our oil consumption. It's a big part of freedom, having such a great thing, highly energy dense and portable source of energy, oil and gas. It's it doesn't help in the control system, whether it's this control of virus or all the methods of control of the financial system. I firmly believe that same thing, whether it's the Green New Deal or some other new clever wording, some phraseology that they're going to use, get a large number of people guilted into or feeling good about not having to deal with that dirty oil that just happens to come from the ground, from the earth. But a good analogy, Jason, with the tortoise and the hare.
You know what my wife showed me yesterday, Bryan? A whole bunch of wind turbines were shut down, I think yesterday or this week. And guess why? They're all leaking oil.
Up by the gearbox is up on the top of the stack. Yeah,
the wind turbines don't work without a little bit of oil there, Bryan.
That's just it, and that doesn't mean that oil and gas is going to be done away with and not used anymore. It's just in the current form of our vehicle and our transportation. They just can't have it. Pick your group of controllers, and there's different levels and layers of it. And Rick Rodriguez, I think last week, might have been the week before, did a great job of highlighting those various global groups. And the Club of Rome being an example, just one of them, or the Club of 300, Committee of 300. There's a lot of control, and they stay well hidden behind the scenes, but not Patriot. And the other part, Jason, talking about gold and silver, Kiyosaki also mentioned ETFs and other stock market type gadgetry for gold and silver. Patriot is physical possession of gold and silver, and we've been doing it for 25 years.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And I wanted to play that because Bitcoin is a great idea for fair money, but the problem about it is because it's not physical money held in your hand, you're going to have a major problem when someone decides to corrupt that idea or just make it against the law, which that's what I feel is going to happen. These cryptocurrencies are going to be wiped out by the stroke of a pen, by whatever president's there at the time and whatever Congress and Senate. It'll have bipartisan backing because this is for the good of the country against money launderers and drug lords and things of that nature. And then once it's more like checkmate at that point, because at least with their funny money, their fake physical cash, in your hand, it's not in their system physically at that moment, so you can go privately make purchases. They need to, the Ponzi scheme is so weak that they can't have physical cash anymore. They need to have every single bit of cash inside that digital system to float it as long as they can before they make this big switch. And Brian, I wanted to say this. You talked about Rick Rodriguez, the open forum. If you're in Arizona and you're listening to this and you haven't really listened to 1360 KHNC, you can simply go to 1360khnc.com and you can stream any of the shows live. The open forum is a show that comes on after Joe's show here in Colorado. It's great. We have different guys that come on every day. Today it'll be Glenn Tate, Prepper 2.0. Highly suggest that you get on board here at 1360khnc.com. You can click on contact, send us emails, ideas, criticisms, compliments. You can click on podcast, get Joe's shows on podcast, get our shows on podcast, a lot of the other shows on the radio station. Get involved in that too. But as far as Bitcoin, I want to end with there have been other forms of money outside the system that was attempted just like Bitcoin. In the 1830s, when Andrew Jackson was waging a type of war against the second bank of the United States, Andrew Jackson wanted to crush and destroy and eliminate the central bank of his time. When he did accomplish this, he paid off the national debt, the only president to do so, and he got so much money coming in from just tariffs and land management going westward that he had surpluses that he paid back to the states. Not in our lifetime have we had something like that. And the bankers were doing everything they could to hurt Andrew Jackson. They even tried to assassinate him. The first president they tried to assassinate was Andrew Jackson, and it was a failed attempt. But they took all the gold out of the system. They took all the silver out of the system. They took all the copper coinage out of the system. They were making a depression happen, and they were trying to blame it on Andrew Jackson and his fair money system and his elimination of the bank. And what happened was a lot of the small businesses all across the United States at the time started minting hard times tokens, copper coinage. That was the same as the large cent, because pennies, the way we have now, they're little tiny pennies. They used to be a big, large, 30-gram piece of copper, these businesses used them as a sort of a business card. They minted these 1 penny coins, and they put their own businesses, their own pictures on there. They kind of advertised their own businesses, and they circulated it into the American public to keep businesses running, because the bankers were trying to destroy Andrew Jackson and keep their central bank. Earlier in England history, when we had the Dark Ages, when the Roman Empire fell because of a corrupt monetary system, we had several centuries, 6, 7, 8 centuries of the Dark Ages. And in Rome and in Italy, it wasn't quite as bad there, but all these provinces they had conquered, they didn't have an army to protect these people, and these people were on their own to protect themselves, and they had centuries of really just bad living. You had lords and peasants. And Brian, they came up with a thing called a tally stick in England. This little island nation came up with a thing called a tally stick. It was a fair money system. It was an idea, and it was a branch essentially that they cracked in half, and the lender and the borrower would have one half of this tally stick, and they had marks on it for the loan. And this made England the most powerful nation on the earth, simply by a free form of money. That the Magna Carta came around the same time in the year 1200, and humanity in England and in Europe very rapidly became free, just because of an honest money system. And then the Rothschilds and the central bank brought forth in England. They conquered the tally stick system and got rid of it, and started having a interest-bearing money system, which enslaved Europe again, and then the New World was found, and so on and so forth. And this whole bankers versus the citizens of a country just goes on and on, right, Brian? It's a constant battle that needs to be waged.
Yeah, it sure is. I got some ideas or some thoughts about Bitcoin versus gold and silver. I want to talk about that on the other side of this break. It's we're not experts in it, but we know enough about it. But we are experts in gold and silver. So stay tuned. Patriot Radio News Hour, filling in for Boss Man Joe. Jason and Brian, be right back. Welcome back, Patriot Radio News Hour. Your co-hosts, Jason and Brian, filling in for Joe on this Colorado Front Range Fake News Friday, but not yet, not until this afternoon. Talking about the Bitcoin and the real preservation of your savings, gold and silver. I hear people they're hesitant to encourage people to get into Bitcoin, and I get the technology behind it, the blockchain technology and the distributed, the crypto mining that's behind it. But I also hear people say, and I think they're right, to put what you can do without, kind of like going to Vegas. What can you afford to lose? Well, maybe that's what you put in Bitcoin or even the stock market. It's interesting, the difference in after having done shows for 3 years now, and having these conversations and thinking about gold and silver. Biblically, it's real money for thousands of years. Put your savings into gold and silver, what you want to preserve, and the contrary to that, into Bitcoin and other vehicles if you can afford to do without it or afford to lose it. Jason, it's kind of a stark contrast in my caveman way of thinking about these things. Well, and it's a great idea.
Let me give you
Bitcoin's it's a great idea, and all the other coins.
Let me give you a scary fact. So I would say in the last just couple of months, I've just been asking everybody about Bitcoin, because a lot of our buyers are buying Bitcoin. A lot of people that don't buy gold are buying Bitcoin. I asked a question of all of them, and I think it's about 300 people over the last, they're definitely this year, maybe late last year. I've been just asking everybody. And I've asked them one question. Have you sold any of your Bitcoin? And how easy is it to get it back into cash in your hand? Or at least digits in your checking account? And out of those 300 people, this is an estimate, it could be more than 300, it could be 400, it could be 250, but in that range, guess how many people have actually done that, Brian, out of all the people I've asked? Zero.
Zero. Or two.
Zero. None of them have sold it. None of them can tell me exactly what it looks like to get it back in your hand. And I've looked it up. It can be very easy right now. Right now, you sell your Bitcoin, it's very easy. But the problem is the way that the way the blockchain's set up, things get frozen up when it's time to get your money out. And even if somebody sneezes the idea that they're going to make it illegal here in the future, there's going to be a huge sell-off really fast, because those that know are going to get out quick. The Robert Kiyosaki's of the world.
A rush for the exit, right?
Yeah, Robert Kiyosaki ain't going to be holding Bitcoin when he hears that. When Robert Kiyosaki hears that Bitcoin may be made illegal, he's done. And he's going to put it all in gold. And man, when you see the money leaving Bitcoin, where is it going to go? The people that get out of Bitcoin, it's going to go to gold and silver. Gold and silver is highly underpriced. We've had this big bump over the last year and a half where we were selling $20 gold pieces for $12.50 or $13.50 in 2018, early 2019. Now we're selling $20 gold pieces for essentially $2,000. That's a nice little bump. But what the funny thing is gold and silver is still well underpriced. And at some point, it's going to go right back to where it should go. And gold should really be between $3,000 to $5,000. So this global monetary reset is going to happen, and when everything readjusts, gold is not going to be told what to do. It's going to go where it naturally goes. About the price of a head of cattle, which, by the way, is about $3,500 to $4,000 right now. So the head of cattle has been moving steadily higher in price, and gold hasn't followed it. Silver hasn't followed it. That's because they don't want, if gold and silver is steadily going up, the dollar looks horrible, and they don't want the dollar to die just yet, Brian.
Well, and don't forget little brother silver. I mean, even if you just go off the face value, 20 to 1, a silver dollar versus a $20 gold piece, what's that put silver where silver ought to be? $100 at least, just to be on par with face value of gold.
That's correct. I mean, and really, from what I understand, silver to gold coming out of the ground right now is about 10 to 1. Obviously, if they find more reserves of silver, then that could move up. But silver is really not being pulled out of the ground very, very quickly right now. And what silver they're recycling is better than gold by the ton. But a lot of silver is not usable. It's considered polluted and poisoned by electronics and things like that. So great time to get into gold and silver, especially if you're patient. If you're one of those guys that you need to buy now and sell next week, gold and silver is never going to be for you. You're too nervous of a person. But even in these economic situations, when I first got on the air 3 years ago with Bryan, I said, 1 to 2 years, you got to hold on to gold and silver. You got to save it at least that long, and then you'll have earned back the reserve that you have to pay when you come in on it, and you'll be ahead. But now the way things are, 6 months. You can hold gold and silver for 6 months. You're going to be just fine, because it's just steadily going to move up. And how much can we talk about, Brian? I guess for 3 years we could talk about it, right?
That's right, Jason. That's a great way to look at it. The patience in today's instant gratification society, being patient and waiting and buying and holding it's contrary to that. So if that that speaks to me volumes. I try not to be trending and on the leading edge. I like new technology, but my my budget doesn't afford it. So I wait for a year or two for various technology, just as an example. And that waiting keeps me from having to. I don't know, Jason. It's just speaking about more of my caveman ways. But gold and silver, be a caveman, get it and hold it, right? Do we have special today?
We have a silver special, and we're piggybacking off of yesterday. Silver's down just a little bit, gold's down just a little bit, but we have silver half dollars at $2.50 a roll. We have silver quarters for $2.40 a roll, and we have silver dimes for $1.20 a roll. So lots, and I got some shipments in just yesterday to beef up my silver, but it seems like as fast as I get silver in, it just walks right out the door. So call us, make an appointment if you're one of my customers. Go to 800-951-0592. Get onto some silver, cheap silver, underpriced silver, and you're going to be better off for it when the winds of change, which are rapidly approaching. Bryan, on the last segment coming up, talk a little bit about Fake News Friday. If you have not been listening to Colorado, I want to just give us a little bump for Fake News Friday coming up today at 3 o'clock. We have an event on Fridays where we have get-togethers. It's going to be a Second Amendment speech. Buddy Myers and Lee Turner from Don't Be a Victim at the 8 a.m. show on Sunday are going to be speaking. We're going to have Subway catered by Dave just up the street here. We're going to talk a little bit about that stuff on the way back. Stay tuned. 1360khnc.com is where you can listen to all of our fine shows.
Final segment, the fill-in guys, Jason and Bryan here. Patriot Radio News Hour. Thanks for being with us this morning. Joe will be back Monday, good Lord willing. What else we got, Jason?
I just wanted to talk about Fake News Friday. We have a fun show. At the beginning of the broadcast, I talked about, I'll ask you here, Bryan, what you think, but all the news is fake. All the numbers are phony and fraudulent. So we put together a fun show at the end of the week where Bryan and I are glass half empty, and quite frankly, we're the glass falling off the table and busting with the grim news that we bring. Especially
when you're caveman, Jason, that reality is hard to avoid, right?
Yes, that's correct. And so on Friday, we just try to lighten it up. We used to have sort of a contest between Bryan and one of our listeners, and they tried to decipher between Bryan and the contestant the stories that our old partner Glenn Biddle would read to us, whether they were fake stories or real stories. But we've kind of moved on. Bryan
put a lot of effort. He put a lot of effort into that. Glenn, he had a project every week doing that.
Yeah, so what we've been doing is a little faster moving show where Bryan reads a little bit of Babylon Bee, and we just make fun of the story. Satire news is just about as real to me as the news that's on the local stations and our national news. And if you've not heard it, just go to 1360khnc.com at 3 o'clock at Colorado time, and listen in for some fun at the end of the week. And then if you're in Colorado, come on over to our Friday event, which I had teased on the other side. Buddy Myers is the main speaker. He's a part of the tag team duo of Don't Be a Victim. Lee Turner, Tango Firearms are going to be here Friday tonight. We're going to have Subway catering. We've been getting about 30, 40 people that show up to these events. It's been pretty cool. And Bryan, that's what we do. We're going to keep the radio station running good. We're going to keep gold and silver and Patriot Trading on its toes, but love what we do and love helping you guys out there.
That's right, Jason. And giving fair credit where credit's due. Fake News Friday is the meat of it is thanks to the guys over at the Babylon Bee, the guys and ladies. Babylon Bee, wholesome satire. If you haven't visited that website, I highly recommend it. And if not, just tune in this afternoon, 3 p.m. Mountain Time.
Yep, that's exactly right, Bryan. I don't know what else we got. Oh, I was going to tell you. I don't know if did you hear the first segment at all, Bryan? I know you weren't on in the first segment.
I did, and you know what? You said who cares about Prince Philip passing away? If the rumors are true, the reports are true about his association with the late Jimmy Savile, there's a lot of young people and children that are better off with that individual gone. And I'll just leave it at that.
Well, like I said before, why do we have to cry over these globalists and when they fall off? Of some president that did us no good, or some royal that didn't make it past 99 years old. It's like, unfortunately, there's not a lot of options when it comes to the news and what really matters, Brian. So that's why we do what we do here at this radio station.
Yeah, that's right. And for people that have read or studied the Bible, there's a significant mark. The 70-year-old mark, or even the 80-year-old mark, is significant. So I agree with your assessment of these old monarchs.
All right, that's going to do it today, Brian. I'm gonna bid us a farewell here. Once again, call the number 800-951-0592. That number is 800-951-0592. We got cheap utility junk silver. $50 rolls, $250. Quarter rolls for $240, and a roll of silver dimes, $120. 800-951-0592. We will see you later today on Fake News Friday.